Hello everyone, this is my trip that I took to Lviv, Ukraine in September. I tried doing this video a few times before, especially in October and November, and I just had a hard time doing it. And I'm giving it another try now that some time has passed by. In fact, I almost decided I'm done with doing videos because this one was kind of hard for me to make. But I took the train from Warsaw to Lviv, changed in Przemysl, and it's a pretty smooth process. As long as you get your tickets early enough, you can still get them last minute. There's usually space, or the conductor, you can usually find space on the train. But the train was packed, and I got mine through the app, through the Ukrainian Rail, and that's the best way to do it. Don't go through third party. In fact, I don't think you can do that anymore. Anyway, a lot of the drone people that I talked to in Lviv had a chartered bus just for them, and they said their border control was around 4 hours. Where the train typically is about 2 hours. It goes a lot smoother. So once the train is ready to board, you go through passport control, which is super easy. And it's kind of cool getting that Ukraine stamp on your passport. And then you get on the train, and it's about theoretically without the border control, it's about a little over 2 hour train ride. But with border control, that adds up to about over four and something hours. So you got to plan for that. Now, I had a concert that night, which I did plan for. That's one reason why I took the early morning train out of Warsaw. And I made it in plenty of time in Lviv to make my concert. And I had another concert 2 days later, too. And it was just really cool talking to these women about their experiences, about their life in, her life in London, the struggle she has there as a refugee, putting her kids in private school because she said the public schools in London are actually not only bad, they're dangerous. She didn't have kind things to say about London. And the other one who traveled a lot in America, and she just came from San Diego, and they were both pretty pleased I was traveling to see their country. They're very proud of their country and their heritage and what they're fighting for. So Lviv has been on my list of wanting to go because it's one of the gems of Eastern Europe. And yeah, the war's going on, and yes, it's kind of dangerous, but I wasn't really too concerned. I taught geometry, and one of the things that we teach geometry is geometric probability. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm really not too worried. I've actually been in more dangerous places than this in my life. Now my wife, she didn't take geometry. She didn't study advanced geometry and geometric probabilities and all that. So she puts me in the Best Western because it has a really good bomb shelter there, and the cellar, it's really solid. But then she sees this room that is really discounted, and it's on the top floor. It's a suite. She puts me in that. So I'm in this top floor of this suite, which if a missile hit this hotel, this would be the room that would get hit. I didn't tell her that, though, because I really liked the room. So the first morning there, I spent about 45 minutes talking to the drone conference attendees. There's a Danish, a Belgian, a Norwegian, and a couple other people, and they had some really insightful things to say about the war and the drone technology that's evolving. Now, I will say this, that I knew that the Russian drone factories weren't coming online fully until October, November timeframe. So I wasn't too concerned then. Now, if I was traveling in December or even January, this January, yeah, there has been more strikes and more power outages and things like that because the Russian factories they're able to crank out thousands now a month with ease. So the escalation of the drone missile warfare has gone up considerably. But when I was there in September, really wasn't too concerned. Yes, there was always that threat. But Lviv, when you look at the history of Lviv, it's fascinating. Yes, it goes back to 1200s, but with the Polish well, you even look at the Golden Horde and all the things that went on and how Poland ruled it, and then Austria and Hungarian Empire ruled it. There's so much. Now, this guy here was very fascinating. I liked him a lot. I was just going into shops and talking to people, believe it or not. And I saw a tiny little shop that said, hey, what's in here? Go in there and start talking to him. And he is a former Ukrainian paratrooper. And he was explaining to me all his stuff about what he does. And he's doing a charity, sending coffee to the front line. So I used all the cash I had at the time. I did not carry enough cash on this. I had to keep going to the ATM and bought these little coffee packets for the people at the front line. But he was very, very fascinating to talk to. And he's going to go back and do another tour this summer, I think. And he said spring or summer. He's taking 6 months off or something like that. And then I think he was going to go back and go fight. But it was fascinating. He's done 16 or 18 jumps, and of course they don't do that now, but it's fascinating to hear him talk. So I went around Lviv taking pictures and just seeing the sights and talking to people. And most of the people I talked to, I didn't record or anything. I just wanted to hear their stories. And there's just so many stories. And this is one reason why I had a really hard time making this video, because they're still with me. Those stories are still with me. And that's one reason. Gosh, I almost said I'm not doing any more videos. But my brother was just here this past weekend, and I was with family, and or the week before. And they said, no, you need to do these, and because he likes to watch them. And I know other people do too. Alrighty, so one of the joys, just walking around Lviv, and I wanted to... So there's things like that going on all the time around there. There's music, there's little festivity, there's gatherings, there's services, there's all kinds of stuff. But I'm even having a hard time talking about it, but Lviv is just one of those gems of Europe. It really is. It's been preserved. It wasn't damaged in World War II. The outer areas were, especially the train areas and stuff like that, the logistics areas. Some of those rail networks were hit pretty hard in World War II, but the town center was basically unscathed. There was a couple maybe bombs that dropped nearby, but nothing that impacted the architecture or the history of the place. And much of the city that you see was built by, the Austrians. The Germans came in and tried to recreate Vienna, or the Austrians, sorry. And they tried to recreate Vienna in some way. That was called the Vienna of the East. And when you walk around, you see it, because I just came from Vienna. I was in Vienna right before I headed to Poland. I went to Hungary first, and then I went to Poland. And then I'm heading to Vienna right after this, because I have a concert I have to get to in like 3 days. So I can't miss my trains, which was a little bit of concern. I had a 1-day buffer leaving Lviv to make sure I get back to Vienna, because I did not want to miss that concert. So when you walk around Lviv, there's some tourists there. There are Ukrainians from Kiev that are touristing. I think there's some Polish and maybe some other Europeans, but I did not meet a single American tourist anywhere I went in Lviv for the 3 days I was there. And I traveled light. I wanted to buy some, like those dresses and stuff. I wanted to get something for my daughter, but I just didn't have the space in my luggage, because I'm traveling trains and it's not easy. So I buy little things for souvenirs. But I came here and I spent some money. I mean, I'd have to keep hitting that ATM, because I think, oh, this should be enough. Nope. I go to that coffee place and buy coffee for the troops. I go to the cat cafe and buy extra cat food and for them or the cat. I don't know what they use the extra money for. So yeah, I'm always running out of cash. Now most places used debit card. You can use your card. I use my I have it on my phone and all. You pay for that. So I did some of that. But a few places were cash only, especially the charity places. They only did cash. So if you come here, just go to the ATM and withdraw some. It's pretty easy at the bank. I had someone help me the first time, and then the subsequent times I could go through because they didn't have an English option on those machines. So it was like a little nervous. Am I sure I'm hitting the right button? I have another video on the cat cafe. I go to cafe whenever I'm in. If there's a cat cafe and I have the time, I hit them. I've hit so many in Europe so far, and my next trip I'm going to try and go to more cat cafes. I just love them. They're just so relaxing. I sit there and read and have some food. I had pizza here, which was really good. I mean, the pizza was really yummy, so it was pretty nice, and it was just really, really good. So again, one of the reasons I came to Lviv, not only to see the architecture and talk to the people, was to go to 2 organ concerts. There's a very famous organ hall, and Lviv has a rich musical history. And my last 2 trips have been pretty much music trips. I went to Budapest to go hear the organ there. And here I came to hear this organ as well. So the first night there was a concert, and then the second one there was a student recital followed by an organ concert by the organ master. And it was pretty cool. So you can hear a little bit of this. I wasn't terribly familiar with the pieces, but they were traditional Ukrainian, and it was just really cool to listen to the students perform. So yeah, here's a couple of excerpts from it. And then the second half, I may do a separate video on that. So this is just a little bit of the students playing, or one student playing. Here you go. But the organ was just fascinating and really cool, and it's really special to see those students play, and it just ties in. Music is just so amazing. Well, my last morning, I had a little bit of time before I caught the train, and I had breakfast, and then I went to the market. And on the way to the market, they had their moment of silence. So here it is.
У Львові загальнонаціональна хвилина мовчання. Зупинись на хвилину та вшануй пам'ять усіх, хто загинув через напад Росії на Україну. Слава Україні! Слава героям!
All 3 mornings that I was there, it was a pretty chilling moment of silence because you see the evidence of it. You see the disparity of the male to female ratio in town. You see the wounded in the square where the statue of the poet was. Saw wounded veterans who were missing limbs. And yeah, see, this is why I couldn't do the video, because I get choked up. And hearing the story of the women that, and I talked to several, and I didn't record. I didn't, I just listened, and they want to tell their stories. And even going into the churches, I didn't go to a single church this trip because there's always something going on, and it wasn't a wedding, if you know what I mean. There's always something going on. And I peeked in a couple of times, but I just left. And this is, I mean, here I go again. This is why I can't do these videos. When there's no easy solution, even when I was talking to the Dutch and the Norwegian, they did not want to see, they're very realistic about the war. And they probably wouldn't have a popular attitude that many pro-Ukrainian Americans have, because they're a little bit closer. They see the threat a little bit differently than we do. But man, we get educated. There's a lot of popular YouTubers out there. You got to be careful with some of them because they have a myopic or a very biased view on both sides. There's a few that I like. Even the ones that I like, I find myself shaking my head. How can they say such things? But get educated. Go for multiple sources on what's going on in this war and why it is so important that Ukraine prevails in this. It's just so important. But don't just listen to 2 or 3 YouTubers. I won't get into which ones are my favorites or which ones I think are kind of out there. And just see, I can't do videos anymore, at least not like this. I like music. I mean, like I said, when I tour, I go for concerts. Like the reason I did this trip, the previous trip, I went to go see Joshua Bell in Prague. And then this last trip, I wanted to see the Grieg Piano Concerto in the music variant in Vienna. And those were the top priorities. And then when I go to towns, I look for concerts. And Budapest, I traveled there because I was able to sit right there on the platform in the cathedral and watch the organist play. And that was just so freaking awesome. And in here, going to the 2 organ concerts, the legacy of Mozart's son and the musical tradition that Lviv has is just so rich. But coming here was just so different than going to Warsaw. And yes, I went to, when I was in the Baltic states, I visited the Museum of Occupations, and I tell you what, you want to get an education on how Russia has messed up many parts of this part of the European area. You go to Riga, you go to Lithuania, you go to Tallinn, and it just you go to visit those museums there, and you learn about the struggles against the Soviets, the communism, and you really appreciate what they're doing. And now Ukraine's going through it all over again. And yeah, they're not communists; they're more, autocratic, or almost, we just hope for that. Now there is some good news. I mean, the sanctions did get cranked up this past year, and the war of exhaustion against Russia is starting to take effect. So we're crossing our fingers on that. Hopefully the oligarchs start arm twisting to find a way to end this thing, because there's no easy thing in sight. Well, I got to the train station and I go in and sit down and kick back because my train was not going to leave for another 30 minutes. And a bomb threat. We had to clear the building. And that took a couple hours. I'm going, oh, great. Well, I built in extra time to get to Krakow. And because I wanted to stop in Przemysl and go tour it. I mean, it's a famous World War I battle fought near there. Or longest battle of World War I, actually, I think. And I wanted to go see some of that. Well, the train got delayed because of the bomb threat, because the train couldn't come on the track, so it stayed downrange. The train coming from Przemysl had to stop. And so things just got all messed up. And it was several hours overall delay. And even though customs went fast, we still had to sit there on the track waiting for the train to depart Przemysl before we can go in and park. So, gosh, 6-7 hours, something like that. And I just barely made my Krakow train. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get to Vienna. But I had a day in Krakow planned. And again, this is why I couldn't make this video for months. I mean, So again, I shared a compartment with 3 women, and they had their stories to tell. It's just tough. Really tough. But I don't think I'm going to try and redo this video. I think I'm just going to post it with all my rambling and everything else. Alrighty, everybody. I hope everybody has a good and happy day. Take care.